Have you ever walked out of a conversation feeling like you weren't truly heard, or worse, that you might have come across as pushy or even arrogant when all you wanted was to be taken seriously? It's a frustrating and deeply human experience, wanting to command respect without demanding it, hoping your presence carries weight without the need for loud declarations or constant self-promotion. In a world that often mistakes volume for value and aggression for authority, finding that balance can feel nearly impossible. But what if the secret to earning genuine respect has nothing to do with being the loudest or most assertive person in the room? What if instead it lies in cultivating a quiet, unshakable inner strength, one that others can sense without you ever having to say a word? This is where the ancient philosophy of Stoicism offers timeless wisdom. Nearly 2,000 years ago, the Roman emperor and Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius wrote in his personal journal, now known as Meditations, these powerful words: "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. This simple yet profound idea is at the heart of what it means to cultivate respect through virtue rather than ego. Stoicism teaches us that true authority doesn't come from dominating others or seeking external validation. Instead, it grows from self-mastery, emotional control, humility, and an unwavering focus on what is within our power: our actions, our responses, and our character. In this video, we're going to explore 25 subtle power moves inspired by Stoic philosophy, practical, actionable behaviors that can help you command respect naturally without a hint of arrogance. These aren't manipulative tactics or quick fixes. They're principles rooted in the idea that how we carry ourselves, how we listen, how we respond to challenges, and how we treat others speaks louder than any title or boast ever could. From learning the art of deep listening to maintaining composure under pressure, from speaking with purpose to leading quietly by example, each of these moves is designed to help you build a presence that others instinctively trust and admire. So whether you're navigating the workplace, strengthening personal relationships, or simply striving to become a more grounded and respected version of yourself, you're about to discover how the quiet power of Stoicism can transform not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. True listening is a quiet superpower, one that transforms conversations and builds bridges of trust without a single boastful word. In our rush to be heard, we often forget that the most respectful thing we can offer someone is our full, undivided attention. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus, a philosopher who began his life in slavery and became one of the most influential teachers of his time, frequently emphasized the importance of listening not to reply but to understand. He warned against the trap of hasty judgments, reminding us that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak. For a Stoic, this isn't just good manners, it's a fundamental practice of humility and wisdom. It's the recognition that every person we meet can teach us something, and that by truly hearing them, we affirm their inherent worth and dignity. Consider a typical meeting at work. The natural impulse is often to wait for the slightest pause so we can jump in with our own idea, our own solution, our own story that we're just itching to share. We're physically present, but mentally we're already crafting our response, rehearsing our lines to sound as impressive as possible. Now, imagine the profound shift that occurs when you resist that urge. Instead of interrupting, you lean in slightly, you maintain eye contact, and you absorb not just the words being said, but the meaning behind them, the concerns, the excitement, or the hesitation in the speaker's voice. You're not just hearing, you're actively listening. This simple change does something remarkable. It makes the other person feel valued, they feel seen. And in that space, respect isn't demanded, it's naturally and willingly given. Your silence becomes more powerful than any interjection could ever be. This practice extends far beyond the conference room. It applies to every interaction, from a chat with a barista to a deep conversation with a partner. Each time you choose to fully listen, you are exercising a Stoic power move. You are demonstrating control over your own ego and impulses, focusing on what is within your power, your attention, rather than on controlling the conversation or proving your point. It's a subtle but undeniable display of inner strength. So, take a moment to reflect on your own habits. When was the last time you listened to someone without simultaneously planning your response? Without letting your mind wander to your own agenda? That moment of pure, uninterrupted listening is where genuine connection begins and where true respect is quietly earned. How do you react when things go wrong? Do you feel that sudden rush of heat, the tightening in your chest, the impulse to lash out or immediately defend yourself? It's a completely human reaction, but it's also a moment where we hand over our power to the external event. Stoicism offers a profoundly different way to approach these challenges, not by suppressing emotion, but by understanding the fundamental distinction between what happens to us and how we choose to respond. The Roman philosopher Seneca, in his letters to his friend Lucilius, spent considerable time exploring this very idea, especially concerning anger. He wrote that anger is a temporary madness, and that the greatest remedy for it is delayed, to pause and allow the initial, heated impulse to cool before we take any action. This isn't about being emotionless, it's about being the one who decides what happens next, rather than being a slave to your first reaction. Seneca's wisdom cuts to the heart of composure. He advised that tranquility comes from accepting the things we cannot change, while directing our energy toward mastering our own judgments and actions. One of his most powerful quotes on this subject is, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." So much of the pressure we feel is magnified by our own minds, by the stories we tell ourselves about what an event means, the catastrophes we imagine will follow, or the perceived insults we internalize. The Stoic practice is to pull that narrative apart. When a stressful event occurs, the first move is to consciously separate the bare facts of the situation from the layers of interpretation and emotional charge we add to it. The event itself is neutral. It is our judgment of the event that causes our suffering. By managing our judgments, we manage our experience. Consider a modern scenario: receiving harsh criticism during a performance review at work. The initial, automatic response might be defensiveness. Your heart races. You start formulating counter-arguments. You feel attacked and undervalued. This reaction is understandable, but it rarely leads to a productive outcome and can often damage the respect your colleagues and superiors have for you. Now apply the Stoic pause. Instead of reacting immediately, you take a breath. You listen fully to the feedback without interrupting. You mentally separate the facts of the critique from the emotional sting. Perhaps you even thank the person for their input, acknowledging that you will consider their points carefully. This calm, collected response is a powerful demonstration of inner strength. It shows that you are in control of yourself, that you value growth over ego, and that you cannot be easily shaken by external opinions. This doesn't mean you blindly accept all criticism. It means you process it with reason rather than emotion, deciding later what is useful and what is not. This ability to remain steady under fire quietly commands immense respect because it is so rare. People are drawn to those who provide a sense of stability, especially in chaotic or high-pressure environments. Your composure becomes a calming force that others instinctively trust and want to emulate. Think back to a recent stressor in your own life, a difficult conversation, a missed deadline, a sudden change of plans. How did you respond in that moment? Now, consider how the outcome might have shifted if you had approached it with a greater sense of calm and deliberate control. Perhaps a misunderstanding could have been avoided, a relationship strengthened, or a better solution discovered. That is the practical power of Stoic resilience. It transforms challenges into opportunities to demonstrate your character, and in doing so, deepens the respect you earn from everyone around you. Do your words consistently add genuine value to a conversation, or do they often just contribute to the background noise? In an age of constant communication and endless digital chatter, the ability to speak less while saying more is a rare and deeply respected skill. The Stoics placed immense importance on this discipline of purposeful speech. Marcus Aurelius, in his private meditations, repeatedly reminded himself to avoid unnecessary talk. He wrote, "Let no word escape your lips in vain." For a Roman emperor, a man whose every word carried weight and could be misinterpreted or used against him, this was a practical necessity. But for us, it's a profound philosophical practice. It's about recognizing that our speech is a direct reflection of our inner state. Cluttered, frantic talking often points to a cluttered, frantic mind, while deliberate, concise speech reflects a mind that is calm, focused, and in control. This isn't about being silent all the time or withholding valuable contributions. It's about the intentional choice to ensure that when you do speak, your words carry substance. There is incredible power in strategic silence, the pause that allows a point to land, the moment of quiet that demonstrates you are thinking deeply rather than just waiting for your turn to talk. A powerful Stoic quote, often attributed to both Seneca and Epictetus, captures this idea perfectly. "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we can listen twice as much as we speak." This simple ratio is a guiding principle. It shifts the goal of conversation from self-expression to mutual understanding and collective progress. Your silence becomes an active, engaged space for processing and consideration, not a passive void. Imagine a common brainstorming session. One person dominates the discussion, talking at length about every idea that pops into their head, thinking out loud and essentially using the meeting as their personal notepad. Another person stays quiet for most of the hour, listens intently to everyone's contributions, and then, near the end, offers a single, well-formed thought that synthesizes the best ideas and provides a clear path forward. Who commands more respect in that scenario? The one who spoke the most, or the one whose few words resolved the entire discussion? The person who practices brevity demonstrates that they value the group's time and cognitive space. They show that they have processed the information, filtered out the irrelevant details, and arrived at the essential core of the issue. This is a subtle power move because it proves competence without a trace of boastfulness. This practice extends to every facet of communication, from emails to casual chats. It's about eliminating the verbal filler, the ums, the you knows, the long-winded stories that don't have a point, the compulsive need to fill every moment of silence with sound. It's about replacing rambling with precision. So, take a moment for a bit of self-audit. What is one thing you could consciously stop saying to appear more deliberate and thoughtful in your speech? Maybe it's that habitual complaint about traffic, the automatic agreement without real conviction, or the tendency to over-explain a simple concept. By intentionally removing just one piece of unnecessary noise from your daily conversations, you create more room for the words that truly matter, the words that will be heard, remembered, and respected. Confidence isn't about showing off, it's knowing your worth quietly. This subtle but profound distinction lies at the heart of humble confidence, a quality the Stoics saw not as a contradiction, but as the natural result of true self-awareness. Epictetus, who taught that our peace of mind depends on understanding what is within our control and what is not, provides the perfect framework for this. Your skills, your effort, your integrity, these are within your control. How others perceive them, whether you receive praise or recognition, these are not. When you internalize this dichotomy, something shifts. The compulsive need to prove your value to others begins to fade because your sense of worth is no longer tied to their approval. Your confidence becomes an internal anchor, steady and silent, rather than an external performance designed to convince. Seneca, in his writing, often championed this quiet self-possession over loud self-promotion. He offered a powerful observation: the greater the man, the more modest he is. This isn't false modesty or putting yourself down. It's a genuine understanding that you are part of a larger whole. It's the recognition that no matter how skilled or knowledgeable you become, there is always more to learn and others who have something to teach you. This mindset frees you from the exhausting burden of having to be the smartest person in the room. You can walk into any situation secure in what you know, yet completely open to what you don't, and that combination is incredibly compelling to others. Consider a team project that concludes with a major success. The person with arrogant confidence might be the first to speak up in the follow-up meeting, eagerly detailing their specific contributions to make sure every bit of their effort is seen and credited. In contrast, the person with humble confidence operates differently. They might be the one to highlight the collaborative nature of the win, to specifically name a junior colleague's innovative idea, or to praise another department's timely support. They don't omit their own role, but they don't feel the need to aggressively center themselves in the narrative. This generous acknowledgement of others does not diminish their own value. In fact, it amplifies it. It demonstrates a security so deep that they don't require constant validation, and that quiet security commands a far deeper and more lasting respect than any boast ever could. This approach transforms how you lead, collaborate, and simply exist in the world. It means letting the quality of your work, the consistency of your character, and the respect you show others do the talking for you. Your actions become your reputation, so take a moment to look at your own interactions. Where in your life can you afford to dial back the self-promotion? Perhaps it's in how you talk about your achievements on social media, or in the way you describe your role in a successful venture. Maybe it's resisting the urge to one-up someone else's story, or to steer a conversation back to your own experiences. The goal is to shift the energy from telling people you are capable to simply being capable, and trusting that this quiet evidence will be noticed and valued by those who matter. Not everything needs to be shared. In a culture that often equates transparency with authenticity and oversharing with connection, this Stoic principle might feel counterintuitive. But there is a profound difference between being open and being indiscriminate. The Stoics practice discretion not as a form of secrecy or deceit, but as a disciplined art of safeguarding one's inner world. They understood that what we choose to keep private is just as important as what we choose to reveal, and that this selective sharing is a cornerstone of both self-respect and the respect we earn from others. It's about recognizing that your inner thoughts, personal struggles, and private victories are valuable commodities. They are not for public consumption, but for careful, intentional reflection. Marcus Aurelius, in the solitude of his journal, constantly reinforced this idea. He wrote, "Keep constant guard over your perceptions, for it is no small thing you are protecting, but your respect, your fidelity, your constancy, your peace of mind, your freedom from pain." This guard he speaks of isn't about building walls of paranoia. It's about exercising discernment. He is protecting his own character and tranquility from the chaos of outside opinions and the draining energy of unnecessary external drama. For a Stoic, the primary audience for your thoughts is you. The validation you seek should come from your own assessment of whether you are living in accordance with your virtues, not from the applause, sympathy, or even concern of other people. Inner reflection becomes the mirror, and external validation becomes a distraction at best and a corrupting influence at worst. Consider the modern professional setting. Imagine a challenging morning, perhaps a difficult personal argument or a moment of self-doubt that leaves you feeling off balance. The person lacking discretion might walk into the office and immediately unload this emotional burden onto their colleagues, detailing the conflict and seeking comfort or alliance. While this might feel cathartic in the moment, it often has unintended consequences. It can make others uncomfortable, create an impression of instability, and blur the necessary boundaries between personal and professional life. Now contrast this with the Stoic approach. You acknowledge the difficult morning to yourself. You might even take a moment to apply a Stoic reframe. What is within my control here? My response, my conduct, my focus on the work at hand. You then choose to engage with your colleagues based on the present reality of your shared goals, not the past turbulence of your private life. This isn't about being inauthentic. It's about being professional and respectful of everyone's time and mental space. Your composure in this scenario silently communicates reliability, strength, and a respect for the shared work environment. This practice of discretion extends far beyond negative experiences. It also applies to your aspirations, your successes, and your positive plans. Constantly talking about your goals can often trick your brain into feeling like you've already accomplished them, robbing you of the motivational drive. Sharing every minor victory can dilute the significance of your achievements and invite unwanted scrutiny or envy. The Stoic moves quietly. They let the results of their actions speak for them, understanding that a goal achieved is a far more powerful statement than a goal announced. This creates an aura of competence and mystery. People know you are effective, but they don't feel the need to know every step of your process. They simply trust that you will deliver. So take an honest look at your own patterns of sharing. What part of your life, whether it's a current struggle, a hopeful dream, or a personal opinion, might benefit from a little more discretion? Where could you pull back just 10%, choosing to process more within yourself and share only with true intention? You may find that this selective silence not only preserves your mental energy, but also builds a deeper, more earned form of trust with those around you. The best leaders don't just talk, they do. This principle is at the very core of Stoic philosophy, where the measure of a person is found not in their eloquent speeches or grand promises, but in the quiet, consistent alignment of their actions with their stated values. Epictetus, who spent his life teaching the importance of living according to nature and reason, put it bluntly when he said, "Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it." For the Stoics, integrity wasn't an abstract concept to be discussed. It was a daily practice to be lived. Your behavior is your most powerful and authentic communication. It's the unspoken argument for your character, and it speaks so loudly that people often don't need to hear what you say. They simply watch what you do and draw their own conclusions about your trustworthiness and your worth. This is about leading from wherever you are, whether you have a formal title or not. Leadership, in the Stoic sense, isn't about a position of authority over others. It's about the authority you have over yourself. It's the integrity to do the right thing even when no one is watching, and the humility to let that action stand on its own without requiring a spotlight. A powerful quote that captures this spirit comes from the Roman poet Publilius Syrus, who wrote, "A good reputation is more valuable than money." But a Stoic would add that this reputation isn't built through self-promotion. It's built brick by brick through honorable actions, each one silently reinforcing the last. Your integrity becomes your currency, and it's accepted everywhere. Imagine two managers in an office. The first one gives passionate speeches about the importance of work-life balance and mental health, but then sends emails at 11 o'clock at night and responds to messages during their vacation. Their words say one thing, but their actions scream another, creating a silent pressure for their team to do the same. Now, consider the second manager. They may rarely lecture on these topics, but their behavior is a constant lesson. They arrive on time and leave on time, respecting the boundary between work and personal life. They take their full lunch break away from their desk, encouraging others to do the same without ever having to say it. When faced with an ethical gray area, they choose the principled path without fanfare or drama. This person isn't just managing, they are leading by example. Their team doesn't feel pressured, they feel permitted. They feel empowered to also prioritize their well-being and act with integrity, because their leader's actions have silently given them permission and set a clear, attainable standard. This form of leadership is incredibly potent because it is utterly disarming. You cannot argue with a well-lived life. You cannot debate a consistent action. People might doubt your words, but they will believe what they see you do, day in and day out. Your punctuality, your focus, your fairness, your calm under pressure, these are all silent sermons that people attend every day. They are the proof of your philosophy, so take a moment for an honest inventory of your own conduct. What is one behavior of yours that silently sets a standard for others, whether you intend it to or not? Is it the way you handle disappointment, the respect you show to everyone regardless of their status, your willingness to clean up a mess you didn't make? These are not small things. In the economy of respect, these consistent actions are the deposits that build immense social capital, creating a foundation of trust that allows you to lead and influence others not through command, but through quiet, undeniable example. How do you handle criticism? Does your stomach tighten at the very thought? Do you feel a flash of heat, a rush of defensive arguments ready on your tongue? For most of us, this is the automatic, ego-driven response, a reaction the Stoics sought to master through reason and a profound shift in perspective. Seneca, in his letters, didn't see criticism as a personal attack to be battered away, but as a rare and valuable opportunity for self-examination. He advised treating feedback not as an insult, but as a form of assistance, writing, "The wise man will seek out severe critics rather than avoid them." This is a radical reframing. It means viewing the person offering tough feedback not as an adversary, but as an unpaid consultant, someone who is gifting you a clearer view of a blind spot you couldn't see on your own. The Stoic goal is improvement, not protection of a fragile self-image. This philosophy hinges on the core Stoic distinction between what is within our control and what is not. The critic's words, their tone, their own potential motivations, these are external events outside your control. They are merely impressions. Your judgment of those words, your decision to receive them with grace, and your choice to extract any useful nugget of truth, this is entirely within your power. Seneca would argue that to react emotionally is to hand over your inner peace to someone else, to let their words dictate your state of mind. But to respond with reasoned detachment is to reclaim your power and demonstrate a strength of character that is both rare and deeply respected. It proves that your sense of self is rooted in your virtues and your capacity to grow, not in the fleeting opinions of others. Imagine a practical scenario. A colleague pulls you aside after a presentation and says, "Your data was strong, but you spoke so quickly that it was hard to follow the main argument." The immediate, ego-driven reaction might be to explain yourself, "I was short on time," or "I was just excited," which effectively dismisses their perspective and signals that you are not truly open to feedback. Now apply the Stoic pause, take a breath, separate the fact of their observation from any emotional sting it might carry, then simply say, "Thank you for telling me that. It's helpful to know, and I'll work on my pacing for next time." This simple, non-defensive response is a powerful move. It immediately disarms any potential conflict. It demonstrates maturity and self-control, and it marks you as someone who is confident enough to acknowledge an imperfection. The critic, expecting a defense, is instead met with gratitude, and their respect for you instantly grows. This approach transforms criticism from a threat into a tool. It allows you to sift through any feedback, take what is useful for your growth, and calmly discard the rest without needing to argue or prove the other person wrong. It's about becoming a curator of your own development, actively seeking out these moments of uncomfortable truth because you value progress over comfort. So take a moment to reflect on your own experiences. Can you recall a specific instance where a piece of difficult feedback, once you moved past the initial sting, actually helped you improve a skill, mend a relationship, or see a situation more clearly? How did that experience shape you? And more importantly, how can you actively cultivate more of those opportunities? Perhaps it means proactively asking a trusted mentor, "What is one thing I could do better?" or ending a project debrief by sincerely asking, "What did I miss?" This active pursuit of constructive criticism is the ultimate sign of a secure and growing individual, one who quietly commands immense respect by showing that their commitment to excellence is greater than their need to be right. Gratitude isn't always loud, it's often felt in small acts. In a world that frequently encourages grand, public displays of appreciation, the Stoic approach to thankfulness is strikingly different. It is quiet, consistent, and deeply personal, less about performance and more about a genuine recognition of the good that exists in our lives, often because of others. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in the ancient world, began each day not by listing his demands, but by consciously reflecting on the people and things he was grateful for. He wrote in his meditations, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." This daily ritual wasn't for an audience. It was a private exercise in grounding himself in humility and connection before facing the immense responsibilities of his day. For him, gratitude was a form of focus, a way to orient his mind toward what was present and positive, rather than what was lacking or difficult. This practice transforms gratitude from a fleeting emotion into a disciplined virtue. The Stoics saw it as a logical response to the interconnected nature of the world. We do not achieve anything entirely on our own. Our lives are supported by countless others, from the farmers who grow our food to the colleagues who support our projects. To acknowledge this is not to admit weakness, but to demonstrate a clear-eyed and accurate understanding of reality. A beautiful quote often attributed to Seneca captures this spirit perfectly. "He who receives a benefit with gratitude repays the first installment on his debt." But the Stoic repayment isn't about keeping score or creating obligation. It's about continuing the cycle of goodness through our own actions, quietly and without fanfare. Consider the power of a brief, handwritten note of thanks, not a lengthy email copied to a dozen people, and certainly not a public social media post designed for maximum visibility, but a simple, sincere card. You take 5 minutes to express genuine appreciation to a mentor for advice they gave you months ago, to a coworker who stayed late to help you meet a deadline, or to a friend who simply listened when you needed it. You mention the specific action and the impact it had on you, and then you send it off with no expectation of a response or reciprocal favor. This act is a subtle power move of the highest order. It shows that you are attentive and reflective, that you remember kindnesses long after they occur, and that your appreciation is motivated by genuine regard, not a desire to be seen as a grateful person. It builds a foundation of respect and goodwill that is far more durable than any transactional thank you. This quiet gratitude extends beyond notes to countless small gestures. It's the warm, direct eye contact and sincere thank you you offer the barista who makes your coffee, truly meaning it. It's pausing to genuinely compliment a team member on a small win in a meeting, ensuring they feel seen. It's mentally acknowledging a family member for something they do every day that usually goes unnoticed. These acts require no stage. Their power lies in their authenticity and their focus solely on the other person. So bring this reflection into your own day. Who deserves your gratitude right now, not for anything grand, but for a small act of decency, support, or simply for being a positive presence in your life? And more importantly, what is one subtle, unassuming way you can show them that you see and value their contribution? In that choice to acknowledge others quietly, you demonstrate a strength that is both humble and profoundly commanding. Being on time is a form of respect, a simple yet profound demonstration that you value the commitments you've made and the people who are counting on you. In our hyper-connected world, where distractions are endless and calendars are packed, punctuality can feel like a quaint relic. But for the Stoics, it was a vital component of a virtuous life, deeply intertwined with their core values of order, responsibility, and living in accordance with nature. They saw time not as an abstract concept to be wasted, but as the most precious non-renewable resource we are given. Every moment is a gift of life itself, and to be careless with your own time is a form of self-neglect. To be careless with someone else's time is a subtle form of disrespect. It communicates that your schedule, your distractions, your last-minute emergencies are more important than their presence and their plans. The Roman philosopher Seneca wrote extensively on this very subject in his essay, On the Shortness of Life, which is perhaps one of the most powerful texts ever composed on time management. He observed with stunning clarity, "We are not given a short life, but we make it short, and we are not ill-supplied but wasteful of it." He argued that life is long enough if we manage it well, but we fritter it away on pointless pursuits, distractions, and most damningly by allowing others to waste it for us. For Seneca, a life lived in accordance with nature meant being the master of your own time, guarding it jealously for worthwhile pursuits, and by extension, honoring the time of others by not being the source of their waste. When you are late, you are essentially forcing others to participate in your lack of discipline. You are making them waste their most finite asset because you failed to manage yours. The Stoic response is to take absolute responsibility for your schedule, to plan for contingencies, and to build buffers, because your punctuality is one of the few things entirely within your control. Consider the practical impact in a professional setting. A meeting is scheduled for 9 a.m. You arrive at 9:07, slightly flustered, offering a breezy apology about traffic. To you, it's 7 minutes, but multiply those 7 minutes by every other person in that room. If 10 people are waiting, your lateness has just wasted over an hour of collective human productivity and focus. Beyond the lost minutes, you've silently communicated a lack of preparation, a lack of respect for the agenda, and a lack of consideration for everyone else's priorities. You've forced the meeting to start on a note of frustration rather than collaboration. Now, contrast this with the individual who arrives 5 minutes early. They have a moment to settle in, review their notes, and offer a calm, focused presence from the very first second. This punctuality isn't just about clock watching, it's a non-verbal promise of reliability. It tells everyone in the room, you can trust me, I am organized, I keep my word, I value you and what we are here to accomplish. This consistent behavior builds a rock-solid reputation for dependability that is noticed and valued far more than any boast about being busy could ever be. This principle extends far beyond the conference room to every facet of life. It's returning a phone call when you said you would. It's meeting a friend for coffee and being there ready to connect when they arrive. It's submitting a project by the deadline you agreed upon. Each of these acts is a small but powerful Stoic practice in integrity. They are demonstrations that your internal state, your word, your promise, is perfectly aligned with your external actions. There is no friction between what you say and what you do, so take a moment for an honest assessment of your own habits. How does your relationship with time and deadlines affect the way others perceive your character and your reliability? Do you often find yourself rushing, making excuses, or forcing others to wait? What one small adjustment could you make, perhaps leaving 10 minutes earlier or setting stricter boundaries for your preparation time, that would transform your punctuality from a source of stress into a quiet, commanding statement of respect? Gossip diminishes respect, yours and theirs. It's a social habit that can feel like bonding in the moment, but it silently erodes trust and paints you as someone who cannot be fully trusted with confidential information. The Stoics saw this type of negative talk not just as a social misstep, but as a fundamental failure of character and a violation of their commitment to fairness and rational judgment. Epictetus offered incredibly practical advice on this matter, teaching that we should train ourselves not to be drawn into the judgments and opinions of others. He said, "If anyone tells you that a certain person speaks ill of you, do not make excuses about what is said of you, but answer, 'He was ignorant of my other faults, else he would not have mentioned these alone.' This isn't about false humility. It's a brilliant mental reframe that immediately disarms the gossip and shifts your focus inward to your own character, rather than outward to opinions of others. It protects your peace and demonstrates a maturity that is immune to petty chatter. This practice is deeply rooted in the Stoic distinction between what we can control and what we cannot. The words and actions of other people are solidly in the category of things outside our control. To spend your energy dissecting their motives, judging their choices, or participating in speculative conversations about their lives is to waste your precious mental and emotional resources on externals. More importantly, when you engage in gossip, you are not just judging the subject of the conversation. You are also silently passing judgment on your own character, revealing a willingness to traffic in negativity and hearsay. A powerful quote that captures the mindfulness required here comes from the philosopher Socrates via the triple filter test, which aligns perfectly with Stoic values. Before speaking, one should filter their words through truth, goodness, and usefulness. If what you're about to say isn't true, isn't kind, and isn't necessary, it fails all three filters and should remain unsaid. This simple test is a practical tool for exercising the Stoic virtue of mindful speech. Imagine you're in the break room at work and a colleague starts venting about a third person who isn't present, criticizing their work ethic on a recent project. The easy, automatic response is to nod along, perhaps even adding your own small piece of criticism to show solidarity. But the Stoic power move in this scenario is to either gracefully change the subject or to simply offer a neutral, non-committal response and allow an awkward silence to fall. You might say, "I try not to speculate on others' workloads. It's tough to know what everyone is dealing with," and then pivot with, "Speaking of projects, how is yours coming along?" This shift is not self-righteous, it's strategic. It clearly communicates your boundaries without being confrontational. It signals that your conversations are geared toward solutions and progress, not problems and complaints. The people in that room will note your restraint, and though they might be momentarily surprised, they will ultimately respect you more for it. They will understand that when they are not in the room, you will not be speaking poorly of them either, and that is a foundation of trust that is incredibly valuable. This commitment extends beyond overt gossip to the more subtle judgments we make internally throughout the day. Every time you see someone and form a quick, silent opinion about their appearance, their lifestyle, or their choices, you are engaging in the same mental habit that fuels outward gossip. The Stoic practice is to catch yourself in that moment of judgment and consciously replace it with a principle of fairness. Remind yourself that you do not have full context for their life, their struggles, or their decisions. Your only job is to manage your own judgments and actions. This internal discipline makes the external practice of avoiding gossip feel natural and effortless because it stems from a genuine shift in your mindset, not just a performative social rule. Think back over the last few days. Can you identify a recent conversation where you felt tempted to either participate in judgment or to silently judge someone yourself? How did you respond in that moment? Now consider how you might approach a similar situation differently by applying this Stoic filter, choosing curiosity over criticism, silence over speculation, or a change of subject over collusion in negativity. Can people predict your behavior? Not in the sense of being boring or predictable in your thinking, but in the fundamental reliability of your character, your integrity, your emotional responses, your work ethic. This question gets to the heart of the Stoic virtue of consistency, which they saw not as rigidity, but as the unwavering application of your principles, regardless of external circumstances. The Stoics strived for what they called a smooth flow of life, a state achieved when your actions are in perfect harmony with your virtuous nature. It means that who you are at your core does not change based on who is watching, what you might gain, or how you happen to feel on a given Tuesday. Your internal compass remains steady, providing a reliable signal that others can learn to trust implicitly. This isn't about being perfect. It's about being oriented. It's about having a clear set of values that guide your decisions so consistently that people know what to expect from you, and that expectation is always rooted in respect. Marcus Aurelius, in his private writings, constantly returned to this theme of inner steadiness amidst the chaos of the world. He offered a powerful reminder to himself: let your every action, word, and thought be those of a person who could depart from life at any moment. While this might sound morbid, its true meaning is about living with such profound integrity and presence that you would have no regrets if your time were up today. It's a call to stop living provisionally, to stop saying, "I'll be more patient tomorrow," or "I'll start being honest once this project is over." Consistency is built in the now. It's the decision to be the person you aspire to be in this very moment, and then the next, and the one after that. This relentless commitment to virtue, regardless of the audience, forges a character of incredible strength and reliability. People are drawn to this because it provides a sense of stability in an unstable world. They know that your yes means yes, and your no means no, not because of the situation, but because of who you are. Consider the power of following through on a small, seemingly insignificant commitment. You promise a colleague you'll send them a link to an article by the end of the day. It would be easy to forget, to decide it's not that important, or to put it off until tomorrow. The person who lacks consistency might do just that, perhaps remembering the next morning with a quick, "Oh, sorry, I got busy." The consistent person, however, sees this tiny promise as a brick in the foundation of their character. They send the link as promised, without any fanfare or need for recognition. They do it because they said they would, and their word is their bond. This pattern, repeated over dozens of small interactions every week, builds an unshakable reputation for reliability. People begin to understand that if you commit to something small, you will certainly commit to something large. Your consistency in minor things becomes the proof of your trustworthiness in major ones. It's a quiet power move because it requires no announcement. The evidence accumulates silently in the minds of everyone you interact with until their trust in you becomes a default setting. This virtue extends far beyond keeping promises. It applies to your emotional composure. Are you consistently calm and reasoned, or does your mood swing wildly based on the weather or the stock market? It applies to your treatment of others. Are you consistently respectful to everyone, from the CEO to the intern to the person delivering your lunch? Or does your demeanor shift based on what you think someone can do for you? This unwavering application of your principles is what makes your character legible to others. They don't have to guess which version of you will show up today. They know, and in that knowing, they find a sense of security that allows for deeper collaboration, more honest communication, and greater respect. So, take a moment to look at the various domains of your life, your work, your relationships, your personal goals. Where could injecting a greater degree of unwavering consistency most powerfully build the trust others have in you? Is it in always meeting your deadlines? In always speaking with kindness, even when frustrated? In maintaining your daily routines that support your well-being? Identify that one area and commit to making your behavior there as predictable and reliable as the sunrise. Sometimes silence speaks louder than words. In a culture that prizes constant communication and immediate responses, the deliberate use of a pause can be a remarkably powerful tool. The Stoics deeply understood this, valuing quiet not as an absence of sound, but as a space for reflection, restraint, and the cultivation of inner strength. For them, silence was an active practice, a way to create a buffer between an external event and their internal response, allowing reason to prevail over impulse. It was in these quiet moments that they could access their deepest clarity and exercise true control over their reactions, turning a simple pause into a profound demonstration of self-mastery. Seneca, in his writings, frequently championed the value of this inner quiet. He observed, "There is a pleasure in being in one's own company, untalkative and never talking." While this speaks to the joy of solitude, it also points to a broader principle, the power that comes from not feeling compelled to fill every moment with noise. This restraint in speech is not about being shy or withdrawn. It is a strategic choice. It is the confidence to be comfortable in the quiet, to understand that you do not need to constantly assert your presence verbally for it to be felt. Your calm, steady silence can often project more authority and assurance than any stream of words ever could, because it suggests a mind that is composed, thoughtful, and entirely secure in itself. Consider the high-stakes environment of a negotiation. The natural, anxiety-driven impulse is to talk quickly, to fill any lull with justifications, concessions, or repeated arguments, fearing that silence will be interpreted as weakness or uncertainty. But the individual who has mastered the Stoic pause does the exact opposite. After presenting their key point or after a counteroffer is made, they consciously allow a period of silence to settle over the conversation. They lean back, maintain relaxed eye contact, and simply wait. This strategic silence does several things at once. It gives the other party genuine space to absorb and consider what has been said, which is a sign of respect. It conveys an unshakable confidence in the value of your own position. You feel no need to nervously sell it further. Most importantly, it often creates discomfort in the other person, pressuring them to be the one who breaks the silence, potentially revealing more information or making a concession they hadn't planned. Your silence, in this case, becomes an active and incredibly persuasive force in the discussion. This power of the pause extends far beyond the boardroom into our everyday interactions. In a difficult personal conversation, inserting a few seconds of quiet thought before responding can prevent a reactive, hurtful comment and instead allow for a measured, constructive reply. When someone shares exciting news, a moment of silent, attentive absorption before you respond shows you are truly processing their joy, making your subsequent congratulations far more meaningful than an immediate, automatic reaction. Even in moments of conflict or criticism, choosing silence over a defensive retort can de-escalate tension and demonstrate emotional maturity. The pause is the space where impulse is tempered by wisdom. Think back over your conversations from just the last week. Can you identify a specific moment where rushing to speak led to misunderstanding, or where you felt pressured to respond before you were truly ready? Now, imagine how the dynamic might have shifted if you had gifted yourself and the other person just 3 to 5 seconds of intentional quiet. That tiny space could have been the difference between a reaction you regretted and a response you felt proud of. A subtle but profound shift toward communicating with the quiet confidence of a Stoic. Mistakes are opportunities, not failures. This shift in perspective is at the very heart of Stoic humility, transforming what our ego perceives as a personal shortcoming into a practical chance for growth and refinement. The Stoics didn't believe in the concept of a perfect person who never errs. They believed in the wise person who learns from every single experience, especially the uncomfortable ones. Epictetus, who focused intensely on the distinction between what is and is not within our control, offered profound guidance here. He taught that it is not the mistake itself that defines us, but our judgment of it and our subsequent action. He famously said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." A mistake, therefore, is the universe's way of reminding us that there is still more to learn, that our current understanding might be incomplete. To admit an error is to declare yourself a student of life, a stance that requires immense courage and quiet confidence. This philosophy is beautifully captured in a powerful quote often attributed to the Roman playwright Publius Syrus. "Any man can make a mistake, but only a fool persists in his error." The Stoic virtue lies in that immediate course correction. It's the willingness to stop, acknowledge the misstep without a lengthy internal drama, and pivot toward the right action. This isn't about self-flagellation or dwelling on the error. It's about a clean, efficient, and honorable return to the path of virtue. The focus is always forward on the next right action, not backward on the blame or the shame. This approach demonstrates a secure character, one that is not so fragile that it must construct elaborate defenses around every minor flaw. People are instinctively drawn to this quality because it signals safety. They know that if they make a mistake around you, you will understand. And if you make a mistake, you will handle it with grace, making collaboration and trust infinitely easier. Consider a manager who sends an email to their entire team criticizing a project delay, only to discover moments later that they themselves had failed to approve a crucial document that was the actual cause of the holdup. The arrogant response would be to say nothing, to hope no one notices the inconsistency, or to double down with a weak justification. The Stoic response is radically different. They would promptly send a follow-up email to the very same audience. It might read, "Team, I need to correct my previous message. The delay was due to my oversight in not approving the document, not your work. I apologize for the error and for the misdirected frustration. The document is now approved. Thank you for your patience." This sincere, excuse-free apology does not diminish the manager's authority, it elevates it. It shows integrity, accountability, and a commitment to truth that is far more commanding than any pretense of infallibility could ever be. It makes the entire team feel respected and safe, fostering an environment where people are not afraid to take calculated risks for fear of harsh, unfair judgment. This practice of open acknowledgement extends far beyond formal apologies. It's the willingness to say, "I was wrong," in a discussion with a partner, instantly diffusing an argument and opening the door to real connection. It's the ability to laugh at your own minor blunder, showing you don't take yourself too seriously. Each time you do this, you are strengthening your resilience and proving that your self-worth is not tied to being right 100% of the time. It is tied to your commitment to learning and growing. So, bring this reflection into your own recent experiences. What is one mistake you've made in the past week, whether large or small, that caused you a moment of frustration or embarrassment? Instead of brushing it aside, look at it through this Stoic lens. What concrete lesson did it contain about your process, your assumptions, or your communication? And how can you actively use that lesson to improve your very next action, turning that momentary stumble into a lasting step forward? Solitude isn't loneliness, it's preparation. This crucial distinction lies at the heart of the Stoic practice of withdrawing from the noise of the world, not to escape, but to fortify. Where loneliness is marked by a sense of lack and longing for external connection, solitude is a chosen state of rich, purposeful engagement with oneself. The Stoics saw these quiet moments not as empty space to be filled, but as essential training ground for the mind, a private arena where you build the clarity and resilience needed to engage with the world more effectively. It is in these stretches of quiet that you recharge your mental and emotional resources, process your experiences, and return to your life not drained but fortified and focused. Marcus Aurelius, despite bearing the immense weight of leading the Roman Empire, was perhaps history's most famous advocate for this practice. He didn't have the luxury of running away to a remote cabin. His retreats were internal. In the midst of political scheming, military campaigns, and endless demands, he would consistently retreat into the citadel of his own mind. He wrote in Meditations, "People try to get away from it all, to the country, to the beach, to the mountains. But this is altogether unphilosophical. You can get away from it all anytime you like simply by going inside yourself." For him, this wasn't a physical escape but a mental discipline. It was a conscious decision to step away from the external chaos and consult his own inner judge, to examine his impressions, align his actions with his virtues, and ensure that the emperor was still being guided by the philosopher within. This daily practice of inner retreat was what allowed him to handle the immense pressures of his role without becoming corrupted by his own power. A powerful quote that embodies this spirit comes from the French philosopher Blaise Pascal, who perfectly captured the Stoic dilemma. All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. The inability to be with oneself without distraction, without noise, without the constant input of other people's opinions and the digital world's chatter is a fundamental weakness. The Stoic remedy is to cultivate a friendship with yourself, to become a person whose own company is not something to be feared or avoided, but a source of genuine strength and peace. This inner peace isn't a passive state, it's an active resource. It's the calm center that allows you to respond to external events from a place of principle, not panic. Consider the practical application in a modern, hectic workday. You might not have hours to spend in meditation, but you can integrate micro-retreats into your routine. This could be as simple as taking 5 minutes between meetings to sit quietly at your desk, closing your eyes, and consciously letting go of the previous discussion before preparing for the next. Instead of scrolling through your phone during a lunch break, you might choose to eat alone in a quiet corner, simply observing your thoughts or the world around you without judgment. It could be taking the long way back from the restroom to enjoy a minute of quiet walking. These are not breaks in your productivity, they are investments in it. Each small moment of chosen solitude acts as a reset button, preventing the accumulation of stress and mental clutter that leads to poor decisions and reactive emotions. It allows you to approach the next task with a clearer head and a calmer demeanor, making your engagement more focused and effective. This regular practice of reflection is what transforms experience into wisdom. Without it, we simply move from one event to the next, reacting based on habit and emotion, never truly learning or adapting. But when we build in time to look back on our actions, our successes, our failures, our interactions, we create a feedback loop for our character. We can ask ourselves Stoic questions. Did I act in accordance with my values today? Where did I let external things disturb my peace? What could I have done better? This isn't about self-criticism, it's about self-refinement. How might this daily habit of looking inward fundamentally improve the quality of your most important decisions, giving you the space to choose your response rather than being hijacked by your first impulse? Real help doesn't seek applause. It is given not as a performance for an audience, but as a simple, natural expression of character. A duty performed because it is right, not because it is recognized. This is the Stoic view of kindness in its purest form, a philosophy that transforms generosity from a transaction into a virtue. Seneca, who wrote extensively on the obligations we have to one another as members of a shared human community, saw helping others not as an optional extra for the kind-hearted, but as a fundamental requirement of a rational life. He argued that we are all part of a larger whole, and just as a hand or a foot would naturally assist the rest of the body, so too should we naturally assist our fellow human beings. The reward for this help is not found in thanks or praise, but in the very act itself, in the knowledge that you have acted in accordance with your nature and fulfilled your purpose. Seneca offers a powerful quote that captures this selfless spirit perfectly. Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for a kindness. Notice that he doesn't say an opportunity for recognition or for repayment. The opportunity itself is the reward, the chance to be useful, to alleviate a burden, to make the path a little easier for someone else. This is its own compensation. This philosophy completely reframes the motive for helping. It is no longer about building social capital or curating your image as a generous person. It is about the quiet, internal satisfaction of having done what a good person does. Your left hand helps your right hand not because it expects a thank you note, but because they are part of the same body. In the Stoic view, our humanity connects us in the same way. Consider the profound impact of mentoring someone discreetly. Imagine you notice a younger colleague struggling with a software program you've mastered. The flashy, ego-driven approach would be to wait for a moment when others are watching, and then swoop in with a loud, performative demonstration of your expertise, making sure everyone sees your competence and generosity. The Stoic approach is the opposite. You might wait for a quiet moment, pull them aside, and say, "I noticed you were working on that presentation. I've wrestled with that tool before and found a few shortcuts that might save you some time. No pressure, but if it's helpful, I'd be happy to show you quickly." You offer specific, actionable advice without making them feel indebted or incompetent. You do it privately to protect their dignity, and you do it with no expectation that they will sing your praises to the boss or return the favor. This kind of help is pure. It is motivated solely by a desire to be useful. The person on the receiving end feels truly seen and supported, not used as a prop in someone else's story. They will remember that kindness far longer than any grand public gesture, and the respect they have for you will be deep and genuine. This virtue of quiet assistance extends into every corner of daily life. It's the act of silently clearing the coffee mugs from a shared meeting room after everyone has left, not because it's your job, but because it makes the space better for the next group. It's anonymously contributing to a coworker's fundraising goal without mentioning it to a soul. It's offering a word of quiet encouragement to someone who seems to be having a difficult day, away from the ears of anyone else. In each case, the action is divorced from any desire for external validation. The act is its own purpose. This is a subtle power move of immense strength because it proves that your character is not for sale. Your kindness is not a currency you spend to buy admiration. It is a natural outflow of who you are. It demonstrates a security and self-worth so solid that it doesn't require the constant applause of others to sustain it. So, as you move through your day, hold this question in your mind. Who is one person you can support today in a way that expects absolutely nothing in return, not even the knowledge that it was you who helped? Distraction is the enemy of respect. It silently erodes your credibility by scattering your energy, diluting your efforts, and making you appear unreliable and easily swayed by every passing whim or external demand. The Stoics understood this profound link between focus and character long before the modern age of endless notifications and digital interruptions. For them, the ability to concentrate on a single, meaningful task was not just a productivity hack. It was a fundamental moral discipline, a way to exercise control over your own mind and direct your life according to your values, not according to the chaos of the world around you. Epictetus, who taught that our chief task in life is to distinguish between what is within our power and what is not, provides the perfect lens for this. Our goals, our efforts, our focus, these are squarely within our control. The distractions, the interruptions, the opinions of others, these are not. He famously said, "If you seek truth, you will not seek to gain a victory by every possible means, and when you have found truth, you need not fear being defeated." What he is pointing to here is the incredible clarity that comes from having a single, unwavering aim. When you are truly focused on a goal that matters to you, the pursuit of truth, in his example, you are no longer thrown off course by the need to win every argument or please every person. Your focus becomes your anchor, making you impervious to the petty distractions that consume so much time and energy. Your undivided attention on a worthy aim is, in itself, a form of quiet power that others cannot help but notice and respect. This unwavering focus is beautifully captured in a quote from the Roman poet Ovid. "Add a little to a little and there will be a big pile." This is the essence of Stoic perseverance. It's not about heroic, overnight efforts that burn out quickly. It is about the quiet, daily discipline of directing your little bits of time and energy toward a single point, consistently and without diversion. Each moment you choose your priority over distraction, you are adding another pebble to that pile. Over time, that pile becomes a mountain of achievement and a monument to your character. It proves that you can be trusted with important work because you have the self-mastery to see it through, step by step, without getting lost along the way. Consider the modern trap of multitasking, especially during an important task. You might be drafting a crucial report while also monitoring your buzzing phone, half listening to a podcast and keeping an eye on incoming emails. You feel busy, even productive, but the Stoic would see this as a state of fractured attention and shallow engagement. The quality of your work suffers, your stress levels rise as your brain constantly switches contexts, and you present yourself to others as someone who is perpetually distracted and not fully present. Now imagine the alternative. You turn off all non-essential notifications, you close every computer tab not related to the report, and you commit to a single hour of deep, uninterrupted work. Your entire demeanor changes, your posture becomes more focused, your thinking becomes clearer, and the output you produce is of a significantly higher quality. But beyond the improved work, you project an aura of command and competence. People who interact with you in this state see someone who is fully engaged, someone who respects their own time and the task at hand so much that they refuse to be pulled away by trivialities. This deep focus is a silent signal that you are a person of substance and purpose. This discipline of focus extends far beyond work projects into the very goals that define your life. It's about having the clarity to identify what truly matters to you, not what society says should matter or what your peers are chasing, and then having the courage to relentlessly eliminate everything that pulls you away from it. It means saying no to good opportunities so you can say yes to the best ones. It means protecting your time and mental space with the same vigor you would protect your physical home from intruders. Every time you choose your priority, you are not just moving toward a goal, you are building self-respect and earning the respect of those who witness your purposeful direction. So, bring this question into your present moment, cutting through the noise of all your potential goals. What is the one single objective that, if you gave it your undivided attention for the next 30 days, would create the most meaningful progress in your life? Is it completing a certification, repairing a relationship, improving your health, or finally starting that creative project you've been dreaming about? Identify it and then consider what one distraction, one single, recurring interruption you could consciously eliminate starting today to protect the focus that goal deserves. How do you connect with someone's pain without letting it become your own? And how do you offer genuine understanding without falling into the trap of pity that can diminish both of you? This delicate balance is where Stoic empathy truly shines, a practice that combines deep compassion with unwavering rational boundaries. It's not about building walls to protect yourself from the suffering of others, but about developing the emotional resilience to be fully present with them without being consumed by their struggle. The Stoics weren't advocates of detachment in the sense of cold indifference. They were masters of engaged, rational compassion. They believed you could and should feel for others deeply, while simultaneously remembering that their emotional state is not your responsibility to fix. Your role is to understand, to support, and to act with kindness where you can, all while maintaining the inner stability that allows you to be a true source of strength. Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who presided over wars, plagues, and immense personal loss, constantly modeled this balance in his writings. His meditations are filled with reflections on dealing with difficult people, not with anger or frustration, but with a compassionate understanding grounded in reason. He reminds himself, and by extension us, that when someone acts unjustly or is mired in suffering, it is because they are mistaken about what is good. They are acting from a place of ignorance, not malice. This perspective doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it allows you to respond to it without being hijacked by a reactive emotional storm. His compassion was clear-eyed. He could see the human struggle behind the action without feeling the need to either condemn the person completely or take on their confusion as his own. He famously wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." This isn't about revenge at all, but about retaining your own character. It is the ultimate expression of empathy without enmeshment. You understand why someone might have acted poorly, but you choose to act well regardless, preserving your own peace in the process. A powerful quote that captures this Stoic ideal comes from the philosopher Epictetus, who said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." In the context of empathy, this means your calm, reasoned presence in the face of someone else's turmoil is far more helpful than any frantic attempt to solve their problems for them or to mirror their distress. Your stability becomes a quiet anchor for them. Imagine a colleague comes to you, visibly stressed and overwhelmed by a looming deadline, venting about the unfair workload and their anxiety about failing. The pity-driven response would be to immediately absorb their panic, to start fretting with them, to perhaps even take on some of their tasks in a rushed, resentful way that ultimately burns you out. The Stoic empathetic response is different. You listen with your full attention, you acknowledge their feelings without judgment. That sounds incredibly stressful, and it makes complete sense that you're feeling overwhelmed. But you maintain your own calm center. You might then ask rational, solution-focused questions. What part of this feels most unmanageable? Is there one specific thing I can do right now that would actually help you gain some clarity? This approach validates their experience without endorsing the catastrophe narrative. You are a calm port in their storm, not another ship being tossed by the same waves. You connect with their humanity without losing yourself in their chaos. This practice of bounded empathy is a critical leadership skill. Leaders are constantly presented with the challenges and struggles of their teams, and a leader who takes on every ounce of that stress will quickly become exhausted and ineffective. But a leader who can listen with genuine compassion while maintaining a rational, big-picture perspective creates an environment of psychological safety and practical problem-solving. Their team feels heard and supported, but also guided and empowered, not pitied. Think back to your own experiences. Can you recall a specific time when you were able to truly listen to someone's difficulty, to understand their perspective completely, and yet respond from a place of calm reason rather than emotional contagion? How did that balance allow you to provide more effective support? And how did it ultimately strengthen the relationship by building trust rather than dependency? That is the quiet power of Stoic empathy. It forges connections that are based on mutual respect and strength, not on shared anxiety or neediness. Your attire should reflect focus, not distraction. This Stoic principle moves far beyond the superficial question of what to wear and into the profound realm of why we wear it. For the Stoics, every aspect of life, including our appearance, was an opportunity to practice virtue and align our external actions with our internal values. They rejected the idea of clothing as a costume for vanity or a uniform for status seeking. Instead, they saw it as a practical tool for navigating the world with minimal friction and maximum intention. It's about removing the obstacle of self-consciousness and the distraction of constantly worrying about how you are perceived, so that your energy can be directed toward your purpose and your interactions with others. Seneca, who witnessed the extravagant and often decadent fashion of elite Roman society, was a powerful voice for modesty and simplicity. He saw the relentless pursuit of luxurious clothing as a symptom of a disordered soul, a desperate attempt to fill an internal void with external validation. In his letters, he warns that caring too much about fine garments is a form of slavery. You become a slave to fashion trends, to the opinions of those who notice your clothes, and to the constant anxiety of maintaining a certain image. He advised, set aside a certain number of days during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, is this the condition that I feared? This exercise wasn't about embracing poverty, but about practicing freedom. By voluntarily choosing simplicity, you prove to yourself that your worth and your peace are not dependent on your external adornments. You break the chains that tie your self-esteem to your wardrobe. A powerful idea that encapsulates this is the concept of inner worth over outer show. The Stoics believed that a virtuous character is the only true good, and that everything else, including our physical appearance and possessions, is merely a preferred or dispreferred indifferent. It might be nice to have comfortable, presentable clothing, but it has no bearing on your moral worth. Your value is determined by your choices, your integrity, and your character, not by the label on your shirt or the cost of your shoes. Dressing with purpose, then, means selecting clothing that serves your role and your goals without drawing undue attention to itself. It is attire that communicates respect for the context and the people you are with, while allowing your actions and words to be the main event. Imagine two professionals preparing for an important client meeting. The first spends a significant amount of mental energy choosing a strikingly fashionable and expensive outfit, hoping to impress through appearance and signal their success. While they may look the part, a part of their focus is inevitably tied up in maintaining that image, worrying if their tie is straight, if their jacket is wrinkled, if they are being admired. The second individual, guided by Stoic purpose, chooses clothing that is impeccably clean, well-fitted, and appropriate for the meeting's context. Their goal is not to be noticed for their clothes, but to be unnoticed for them, creating a blank slate upon which their competence, ideas, and respect for the client can take center stage. Their attire is armor for the task, not a costume for the ego. It removes a potential distraction for themselves and for others, allowing for a deeper, more meaningful connection focused on substance rather than style. This philosophy isn't about prescribing a drab uniform or rejecting all aesthetic pleasure. It's about intentionality. It's asking whether your choices are made freely, based on your values, or whether they are unconscious reactions to social pressure and marketing. A Stoic might have a simple, high-quality wardrobe that eliminates daily decision fatigue, freeing up mental bandwidth for more important choices. They might choose durable, functional clothing that reflects a value of sustainability and rejects wasteful consumerism. Their style becomes a quiet, consistent expression of their philosophy, not a loud announcement, but a subtle, integrated practice of virtue. So, take a moment to look at your own closet, not with a critical eye for fashion, but with a curious eye for alignment. When you get dressed in the morning, what is the intention behind your choice? Does your style truly reflect the person you are and the values you hold dear, or does it reflect the person you believe others want you to be? Between stimulus and response, there is a space. Use it. This powerful concept, though famously articulated by the psychologist Viktor Frankl, finds its deepest roots in Stoic philosophy, representing the very essence of what it means to respond rather than simply react. It is in that critical, often fleeting gap that our true power resides, the power to choose our next move based on reason and virtue, rather than being hijacked by raw, unexamined impulse. This is not passive hesitation, it is active deliberation. It is the difference between being a puppet jerked around by external events and being the puppeteer who consciously directs the strings of your own behavior. The Stoics dedicated their lives to widening this space, to training the mind to insert a moment of conscious awareness between what happens to us and what we do about it, transforming every interaction into an opportunity for practiced virtue. Epictetus, the philosopher who knew the sting of powerlessness better than most, placed immense emphasis on mastering this internal space. Having been born a slave, he understood that while we often cannot control the external stimuli, the harsh words, the frustrating delays, the unexpected setbacks, we always retain sovereign control over our internal response. He taught that our impulses and initial reactions are merely impressions, and that our duty is not to obey them blindly, but to subject them to rigorous examination. He advised, don't let the force of an impression when it first hits you knock you off your feet. Just say to it, hold on a moment, let me see who you are and what you represent. Let me put you to the test. This act of mentally stepping back, of creating that pause to put the impression to the test, is the core of the Stoic art. It is how we move from being reactive creatures to responsive human beings. A powerful quote that embodies this spirit of deliberation comes from the Roman statesman Cato the Younger, a figure admired by the Stoics, who said, "I begin to speak only when I'm certain what I'll say isn't better left unsaid." This isn't about never speaking. It's about the profound discipline of ensuring that your words have earned their right to be heard. It's the practice of filtering your raw reactions through the sieves of truth, necessity, and kindness before allowing them to escape into the world. This moment of pause is where wisdom is born. It is the quiet battlefield where your better nature wrestles with your baser instincts, and where you decide whether you will be governed by temporary emotion or enduring principle. Imagine a common domestic scenario. Your partner makes an offhand comment that you immediately interpret as a criticism. The stimulus is their words. The automatic, impulsive reaction is a flash of anger, a raised voice, a defensive and sharp retort designed to hurt back. This reaction is instantaneous, fueled by ego and emotion, and it almost invariably escalates the situation into a full-blown argument where nothing gets resolved and both people leave feeling wounded. Now apply the Stoic pause. Upon hearing the comment, you feel the familiar heat rise, but instead of letting it pour out of your mouth, you consciously take one deep, slow breath. In the space of that single breath, you create that critical gap. You use it to ask yourself a few rapid Stoic questions. Is this truly a personal attack, or could I be misinterpreting? What is the most constructive way to address my feelings here? Is my goal to win this moment or to strengthen this relationship? That 2-second pause allows reason to enter the fray. Your response might then be a calm, curious question. That felt a little sharp to me. Can you help me understand what you meant by that? This response, born from pause, transforms potential conflict into an opportunity for understanding and connection. It demonstrates emotional mastery and commands a deep, quiet respect. This practice extends into every arena of life. It's the pause before sending a frustrated email, allowing you to soften the tone and ensure the message is about the problem, not the person. It's the pause in a business negotiation where your silence conveys confidence and compels the other party to reveal more. It's the pause when you receive surprising news, giving yourself time to process it fully before your feelings solidify into a fixed position. Each time you exercise this pause, you are not showing weakness or indecision. You are demonstrating formidable strength. You are proving that you are in command of yourself, and that is the most powerful command there is. So, bring this reflection into your own recent experiences. Scan the interactions of your last few days. Where could the simple, deliberate insertion of a single breath, a moment of silent reflection, have fundamentally altered the course of a conversation for the better? Was it in a meeting when you felt dismissed, during a phone call that triggered your frustration, with a child testing your patience? Identify that moment and see it for what it is, not a failure of response, but a future opportunity to exercise the profound, respect-earning power of the pause. Calm is contagious and commanding. It's a quiet force that doesn't just shield you from chaos, but actually influences the entire environment around you, putting others at ease and creating a space where clear thinking and rational action can flourish. This outward projection of inner tranquility was a central theme in the writings of Seneca, who explored the idea of peacefulness not as a passive state of relaxation, but as an active and powerful achievement of the rational mind. He saw a calm demeanor as the ultimate proof of self-mastery, the visible evidence that a person has sorted their internal world and is no longer at the mercy of external turbulence. In a letter to his friend Serenus, Seneca described this ideal state as having a soul that is settled and arranged in its proper place, a soul that can look upon the world without being disturbed by it. This isn't about suppressing emotion. It's about having processed it so thoroughly through reason that what remains is a deep, unshakable steadiness. Seneca offers a beautiful quote that gets to the heart of this serene power. The mind that is anxious about the future is miserable, but he doesn't stop at diagnosing the problem, he provides the cure. The anxious mind is one that is focused on externals, on future outcomes we cannot control, on past events we cannot change. The calm mind, in contrast, is rooted firmly in the present moment and in its own virtuous choices, which are always within its command. When you cultivate this inner serenity, it naturally radiates outward through your demeanor, your posture, your facial expressions, the tone and pace of your voice, and even the way you move. This physical manifestation of inner peace is a silent language that everyone understands instinctively. It communicates competence, reliability, and strength far more convincingly than any boast or title ever could. People are drawn to this calm because it feels like a safe harbor in a storm. It is a quality they want to be near and a trait they instinctively trust. Consider the powerful impact of maintaining steady body language during a moment of high stress. Imagine a critical project at work is suddenly derailed by an unexpected problem. The team gathers and the atmosphere is thick with tension. Panic begins to ripple through the room, voices rise, postures become tense and closed, people start talking over one another. Now observe the individual who embodies the Stoic pause. They do not slump in defeat or pace anxiously. Instead, they take a deliberate breath, settle into an upright but relaxed posture, and keep their hands still and open on the table. Their eye contact remains steady and attentive as they listen. When they speak, their voice is measured and calm. They are not dismissive of the problem. They are fully engaged with it, but their physical presence communicates that the situation is containable and manageable. This calm demeanor is not a performance. It is the outward expression of an internal process, the conscious decision to respond to the impression of disaster with reason, not emotion. Their calm becomes a resource for the entire team, slowing the heart rate of the conversation and allowing space for solutions to emerge. They command respect not by taking charge aggressively, but by being the one unshakable point in the room. This principle extends far beyond the conference room. It applies when receiving difficult news, when navigating a crowded airport, or when dealing with a frustrated child. In every case, your demeanor is either adding fuel to the fire of chaos or acting as a calming agent. It is either reacting to the environment or actively shaping it. The Stoic goal is to become the calm that shapes the environment. This requires constant practice, the daily discipline of monitoring your own physical reactions and consciously aligning them with the serenity you wish to project. It means noticing when your shoulders tense up and consciously relaxing them. It means detecting a sharpness in your tone and softening it. It means choosing to sit still and listen instead of fidgeting and interrupting. These are small, physical acts of virtue that have a monumental impact on how you are perceived and, more importantly, on how effectively you can operate in the world. So, bring this awareness into your own life for a moment. How does your demeanor, especially under pressure, affect the perceptions of those around you? Does your physical presence amplify anxiety and uncertainty? Or does it project a quiet confidence that reassures others and invites collaborative problem solving? Decisiveness earns respect, flexibility keeps it. This dynamic balance is at the very heart of Stoic leadership, a philosophy that champions the clarity to make firm choices while holding the wisdom to adapt when circumstances demand it. The Stoics were not rigid ideologues. They were pragmatic realists who understood that the world is in a constant state of flux. To try to cling to a single, unchanging plan in a universe that is inherently fluid is a recipe for frustration and failure. Instead, they advocated for a mindset that is anchored in core principles but nimble in its application, allowing you to navigate change with grace and effectiveness rather than being broken by it. Marcus Aurelius, who spent decades leading an empire through war, plague, and political intrigue, constantly meditated on this necessity of acceptance. He wrote in his private journal, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This is perhaps one of the most powerful Stoic reframes for cultivating flexibility. He isn't saying that obstacles disappear. He is saying that the wise person uses the obstacle itself, the very thing that forces a change of plans, as the new path forward. A decisive person makes a plan and charges ahead. A decisively flexible person makes a plan, and when an obstacle arises, they don't see it as a reason to abandon their ultimate goal, but as an opportunity to find a smarter, perhaps better, way to achieve it. Their decisiveness is in their unwavering commitment to the objective. Their flexibility is in their creative and accepting approach to the method. This resilient spirit is perfectly captured in a quote from the Roman poet Ovid, who wrote, "Be patient and tough, someday this pain will be useful to you." While this speaks to enduring hardship, it also points to the flexibility of perspective required to find value in difficulty. The pain of a failed plan, a rejected proposal, or an unexpected setback is only useless if we refuse to learn from it and adapt. The flexible individual, guided by Stoic principles, endures the temporary discomfort of change because they trust in their ability to learn, pivot, and ultimately benefit from the new information the world has just provided them. Their toughness isn't a rigid shell. It's the supple strength of a bamboo tree that bends in the storm but does not break. Imagine a project manager who has meticulously planned a product launch for months, with every milestone and dependency clearly mapped out. A week before the launch, a key supplier fails to deliver a critical component. The rigid, inflexible response would be to panic, blame the supplier, and desperately try to force the original timeline, creating immense stress for everyone involved and likely delivering a subpar result. The decisively flexible leader, however, operates differently. They first exercise their decisiveness. They immediately accept the new reality without complaint or wasted energy on things that cannot be changed. They then gather their team and say, "The component won't be here. That is the new fact. Our goal of a successful launch remains unchanged. Let's decisively explore every possible alternative, a different supplier, a redesign to work around the missing part, a phased launch, and choose the best new path forward." This approach commands immense respect because it combines unwavering commitment to the goal with a humble and adaptable approach to the strategy. It shows that the leader's ego is not tied to their initial plan, but to the ultimate success of the mission. This virtue extends far beyond corporate boardrooms into the fabric of our daily lives. It's the parent who has decisively planned a weekend outing, only to have a child fall ill. Instead of stubbornly clinging to the original plan and creating misery for everyone, the flexible parent decisively pivots to a new plan for a cozy, restorative day at home, thus preserving the true goal of family connection. It's the writer who is decisively committed to finishing a manuscript, but remains flexible enough to completely restructure a chapter when they receive compelling feedback that reveals a flaw in their argument. In each case, the power comes from the fusion of a steadfast spirit and an adaptable mind. Think back on your own recent experiences. Can you identify a specific situation where your initial plan was upended by an unforeseen event? How did you respond? Did you dig in your heels and resist, or did you pause, accept the new reality, and flexibly seek a new way to advance? That moment of adaptability is not a sign of weakness, but a profound demonstration of strength and intelligence, proving that your respect is earned not just by your convictions, but by your capacity to evolve with them. The wise admit they don't know everything, a simple statement that carries the weight of profound intellectual freedom. This embrace of intellectual humility is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, a quiet rebellion against the arrogance of certainty that so often limits our growth and connection to the world. Stoicism reframes the very purpose of knowledge. It is not a trophy to be collected and displayed to prove our worth, but a lifelong practice of expanding our understanding to live more virtuously and effectively. The moment we believe we have arrived at a state of complete knowing is the moment we stop truly learning, closing ourselves off to the endless lessons the world is waiting to offer. This commitment to perpetual growth is what keeps the Stoic mind supple, curious, and resilient in the face of an ever-changing reality. Epictetus, who began his life in bondage and became one of history's most influential teachers, placed this humble pursuit of understanding at the very center of his teachings. He constantly reminded his students that the foundation of wisdom is the acknowledgement of one's own ignorance. He famously said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." This is more than just a clever aphorism. It is a practical psychological truth. When we approach a subject, a conversation, or a new skill with the assumption that we have it all figured out, our minds snap shut. We listen only to confirm our existing biases. We see only what we expect to see, and we filter out any information that challenges our comfortable conclusions. Epictetus urges us to cultivate the opposite mindset, that of a beginner, open and eager, treating every moment as a potential classroom. For him, the pursuit of knowledge was an active, engaged process of questioning, testing, and refining our understanding, never a passive state of having acquired enough. This spirit of the eternal student is beautifully captured in a quote from Seneca, who wrote in his letters, "As long as you live, keep learning how to live." Notice the active verb, learning. He doesn't say, "As long as you live, remember what you have learned." Life is not a closed book to be reread. It is an ongoing manuscript we are writing and editing with every choice we make. This mindset liberates us from the immense pressure to be an expert on everything. It gives us permission to say those three incredibly powerful words, "I don't know." Far from being a sign of weakness, this admission is a demonstration of supreme confidence. It shows that your sense of self is not built on a fragile facade of omniscience, but on the solid ground of intellectual honesty and a genuine desire to understand. Consider the powerful impact of asking questions instead of pretending expertise in a professional setting. Imagine you are in a meeting discussing a new, complex software platform that everyone is expected to use. The individual who feels the need to project an image of total competence might nod along knowingly, using vague jargon to mask their confusion, and later waste hours trying to figure it out alone through trial and error, potentially making costly mistakes. Now observe the person who embodies the Stoic value of learning. They lean in and say, "I want to make sure I understand this correctly. Could you walk me through how that integration works one more time?" Or, "That's a new concept for me. Could you recommend a good resource to get up to speed?" This approach does not make them look foolish. It makes them look engaged, thorough, and secure. It often gives voice to the very questions others in the room were too afraid to ask, making the entire team more effective. By valuing learning over knowing, they not only gain the knowledge they need, but also foster an environment of psychological safety where curiosity is valued over posturing. This practice extends far beyond technical skills into the very way we engage with other people and their ideas. It's the willingness to listen deeply to someone with an opposing political view, not to dismantle their arguments, but to truly understand the experiences that shaped their perspective. It's the curiosity to explore a new art form, a foreign language, or a scientific theory outside your field, not for any professional advantage, but for the sheer joy of stretching the boundaries of your own mind. Each time we choose the path of the learner, we are exercising a subtle power move that commands respect through authenticity and growth. So, bring this question into your own life with genuine curiosity. What is one skill, one idea, or one perspective that you have previously dismissed as too complicated, too unfamiliar, or simply not for you, that you could choose to explore this week with a true beginner's mind free from judgment, full of questions, and open to being delightfully wrong? Your promises define your character. This isn't just a lofty ideal. It's the bedrock of how others perceive your integrity and whether they can truly rely on you when it matters most. The Stoics viewed the act of giving your word not as a casual social formality, but as a sacred extension of your very self. To break a promise, no matter how small, is to create a crack in the foundation of your identity, revealing a disconnect between your internal values and your external actions. It signals that your inner world is not yet fully under your command, that your impulses and shifting circumstances can override your principles. Seneca, who wrote extensively on the importance of a unified and consistent life, saw this harmony between speech and action as the essence of integrity. He argued that a good man's most valuable possession is his trustworthy character, built one kept promise at a time, and that to be unpredictable in your commitments is to live at odds with nature itself. Seneca offers a powerful insight into this when he writes, "A great fortune is a great slavery." While he was speaking of material wealth, the principle applies perfectly to the currency of trust. When you make grand promises you cannot keep or casually commit to things without forethought, you don't gain freedom. You become a slave to other people's expectations and to your own poor judgment. Your word becomes a debt you cannot repay, and that indebtedness chips away at your autonomy and your peace of mind. In contrast, the person who is fiercely protective of their commitments, who says yes only when they mean it and follows through every single time, experiences a profound sense of freedom. They are liberated from the anxiety of letting people down and the guilt of unmet obligations. Their yes means yes, and their no means no, and that clarity grants them immense personal power and the deep, unwavering respect of everyone around them. This virtue is built not in the grand, dramatic gestures, but in the accumulation of seemingly insignificant follow-throughs. It's the commitment to send that article you mentioned, to be on time for a casual coffee, to remember to check in on a friend who had a tough week. These are the small, daily bricks that construct an unshakable reputation for reliability. Consider the impact of someone who always does what they say they will do, even when it's inconvenient. When they agree to take on a task, you never have to wonder if it will get done. You don't need to send a reminder email or check in to see if they've started. That level of trust is priceless, and it transforms every interaction. It means that when this person makes a large promise to lead a critical project, to be there in a crisis, to uphold a confidential matter, you believe them without hesitation. Their track record with the small things is the unshakable proof of their character for the big things. Now turn that lens inward for a moment. Which commitment, large or small, have you been quietly neglecting, and what is the true reason behind that neglect? Perhaps it's a promise to yourself to start that fitness routine, to read more, to learn a new skill. Maybe it's a professional commitment you've been delaying because it feels daunting or unrewarding. Or it could be a personal pledge to a family member that you keep putting off because life gets busy. Often, the reason isn't a lack of time, but a misalignment of priorities or a hidden fear of failure. Examining that neglected commitment honestly is a profound Stoic exercise in self-awareness. It forces you to ask, did I make this promise from a place of authentic intention, or was it a moment of people-pleasing? What internal obstacle is preventing me from honoring my word? By confronting this single neglected commitment and taking one concrete step to fulfill it, you do more than just complete a task. You send a powerful message to your own psyche that you are the kind of person who can be trusted, starting with yourself. Can you disagree with someone's perspective without the conversation descending into personal conflict or resentment? This ability to navigate disagreement with grace and respect is a hallmark of Stoic maturity, transforming potential battles into opportunities for mutual understanding. The Stoics didn't advocate for avoiding disagreement altogether. They were far from passive pushovers. Instead, they championed a more sophisticated approach, engaging with differing views from a foundation of unwavering inner calm and a genuine desire for truth rather than a need to win. It's about separating the idea from the person holding it and attacking the former, never the latter, all while maintaining your own composure and respect for the shared humanity of the other individual. Marcus Aurelius, who was constantly surrounded by senators, generals, and advisors with competing and often conflicting agendas, had to master this art daily. In the midst of high-stakes political debates, he trained himself to listen not from a place of ego, but from a place of reasoned detachment. He offered himself this powerful advice in his meditations. If someone is wrong, instruct them gently and show them where they went wrong. If you cannot do that, then the blame lies with you or no one. This reframes the entire purpose of disagreement. It's not about proving your intellectual superiority or silencing an opponent. The goal becomes gentle instruction, a shared pursuit of a clearer understanding. And if you fail to make your point effectively, the Stoic response isn't to blame the other person for being stubborn. It's to look inward and consider how you might communicate more clearly or patiently next time. This shifts the responsibility for constructive dialogue onto your own shoulders, which is the only thing you can truly control. A wonderful quote that embodies this spirit of courteous discourse comes from the French writer Joseph Joubert, who said, "The aim of an argument or discussion should not be victory, but progress." This perfectly captures the Stoic shift in intention. When your goal is progress for yourself, for the other person, for the collective understanding, the dynamic of the conversation changes entirely. You stop keeping score of points won and lost and start listening for nuggets of insight, for areas of common ground, for a more nuanced view of the truth that might incorporate elements from both perspectives. Your body language softens, your tone becomes inquisitive rather than accusatory, and you create a psychological space where the other person feels safe enough to reconsider their position without losing face. Imagine a team meeting where a proposal you feel strongly about is being challenged by a colleague. The automatic, ego-driven reaction is to immediately defend your idea, to list all the reasons why you're right and they're wrong, perhaps even to question their judgment or experience. This approach, even if your idea is superior, often creates resistance and resentment. Now, apply the Stoic art of respectful disagreement. You might begin by validating their contribution. "Thank you for raising those concerns. That's an important perspective I hadn't fully considered." This simple act of validation doesn't mean you agree with them. It means you acknowledge their right to a different view and you are truly hearing it. You then state your own position, but you frame it as an addition to the discussion, not a rebuttal. Building on that, the reason I lean toward the original approach is because of X and Y. I'm wondering how we might address the valid issues you've raised while still capturing those benefits. This collaborative framing transforms the interaction from a me versus you debate into an us versus the problem collaboration. You have respectfully disagreed while making the other person feel heard and valued, dramatically increasing the chances of finding a solution that incorporates the best of both viewpoints. This practice requires a deep understanding that your opinion, however strongly held, is still just your current interpretation of events, an impression, as the Stoics would say. It is not your core identity. Therefore, someone challenging your idea is not attacking you personally. This mental separation grants you the emotional freedom to discuss things dispassionately and with genuine curiosity. It allows you to be persuadable, which in turn makes you far more persuasive. So, bring this lens to your own interactions. Think of a recent disagreement, whether with a partner, a coworker, or a friend. How might the tone and outcome have shifted if your primary goal had been mutual progress rather than personal victory? What one change could you make, perhaps starting with a validation, asking a clarifying question instead of stating a counter-argument, or simply monitoring your tone to ensure your next disagreement becomes a respectful exchange of ideas rather than a conflict of egos? And so we arrive at the heart of the matter, having journeyed through 25 subtle ways to cultivate a presence that commands respect not through force, but through unwavering character. The common thread weaving through each of these practices is a profound shift in focus, from managing how others perceive us to mastering how we conduct ourselves. This isn't a collection of social tricks or quick fixes for your image. It is a holistic philosophy for building a life of genuine integrity, where respect becomes a natural byproduct of your virtue, not the desperate goal of your ego. We've explored the power of listening deeply, the strength in maintaining composure, the clarity found in purposeful speech, and the quiet dignity of leading by example. Each move is a practical application of Stoic wisdom, a daily choice to prioritize inner strength over external validation, and to understand that the only respect that truly matters is the kind that is willingly given, never demanded. These are not tactics to be deployed, but values to be lived. They are expressions of a character committed to the continuous work of self-refinement. This work is rooted in the timeless Stoic recognition that while we cannot control the events that unfold around us, we hold absolute sovereignty over our judgments, our actions, and our responses. This is the source of true quiet confidence, the unshakable knowledge that your worth is determined from within, making you immune to the fleeting opinions of others and free from the exhausting need to constantly prove yourself. It is the confidence of the deep-rooted tree which does not shout about its strength but simply stands firm through every storm. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who knew more than most about enduring hardship with grace, left us with a powerful image for this inner fortitude. He urged us to build an inner citadel of the mind, writing, "Fortify yourself with moderation. This citadel cannot be overthrown." This citadel isn't built from stone and mortar, but from the daily practices we've discussed. Each time you choose to listen instead of interrupt, to pause instead of react, to assist without fanfare, or to acknowledge a mistake with humility, you are adding another stone to your inner fortress. You are creating a refuge of strength and peace that no external circumstance can ever breach. This is the ultimate power move, cultivating an inner life so resilient and virtuous that it silently commands a respect that arrogance could never hope to achieve. This journey doesn't end here, it simply begins. The real value of these 25 moves is realized not in understanding them, but in practicing them. I encourage you to choose just a single practice from this video, and make a conscious effort to focus on it this week. It might be the art of the strategic pause before you respond, or the discipline of following through on a small promise you've been neglecting. It could be the commitment to offer one piece of quiet, unrecognized help, Don't try to do everything at once. Mastery is a gradual process, built one intentional choice at a time. Pay close attention to how this small shift in your behavior influences your interactions and, more importantly, how it makes you feel about yourself. If you found value in exploring this ancient wisdom for modern life, consider subscribing to the channel for more insights on how Stoic philosophy can help you live with greater calm, clarity, and purpose. I would also love to hear from you in the comments below. Which of these 25 subtle power moves resonated most deeply with you, and why? Your reflections help build a wonderful community of shared learning and growth. Thank you for watching, and remember, the path to commanding respect without a hint of arrogance is a lifelong practice of building your inner citadel, one virtuous stone at a time. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of quiet strength and timeless wisdom. If these ideas resonated with you and you found a bit of value for your own journey, it would mean a great deal if you liked this video or shared it with someone else who might benefit from it. For more content designed to help you live with more intention and less anxiety, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on notifications so you don't miss what's next. I've also taken the time to put together a list of some fantastic books and resources for anyone looking to dive deeper into Stoic philosophy. You can find all of those links waiting for you in the video description below. This isn't just about building an audience, it's about growing a community of people committed to living more thoughtfully, so feel free to continue the conversation down in the comments. I truly appreciate you spending this time here, and I hope to see you in